The Flash movie. Everything we know about the story so far. And believe you me, after reading this, the so far will be irrelevant because no additions to this information is going to fix this. Ezra Miller will return as Barry Allen in the upcoming DCEU film, The Flash. And here's everything we know about the story so far. Ezra Miller's iteration of The Flash was first teased in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, before making his first appearance in Justice League, a role that was later improved and expanded on in the director's cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League. With his first solo film set to release in 2022, his next performance is highly anticipated. Not really, no one likes Ezra Miller. The news media needs to stop pretending that we like Ezra Miller. We don't. We really don't. Highly anticipated. His next performance, as it will also and see the long-awaited return of Michael Keaton. By the way, why is everyone pretending Michael Keaton is this big guy? He's not. He's cool in the roles that he gets. He was cool in his one outing as Batman for the time. If you go back and look at that movie, it's aged horrendously, especially when you compare it to the modern iterations of Batman or the modern standards of Batman. It doesn't hold up. It's bad. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that's the movie where Batman grabs a criminal with his grenade in hand and shoves him into a pit and just walks away with a smile on his face, and the camera like pans across him as the guy explodes in the background. Like, that is not modern standards. That movie does not hold up. The only thing keeping that movie up and around is the what's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgia. Yes, the nostalgia is the only thing carrying that movie. But yeah, but there seems to be even more to look forward to in The Flash. Oh yeah, sure. The Barry Allen version of the beloved Scarlet Speedster debuted. Yeah. We all know the history. We don't care. Anyone who cares knows the history, and it's because we know the history that we don't care. Barry Allen creates a new Flash costume. Yeah, this doesn't look like the Flash costume. This looks like Scarlet bondage wear. Anyone who saw the trailer should be very concerned, just like me. This doesn't even look like a Flash uniform, because the Flash doesn't wear spandex, he wears fabric. Well, that sounds stupid. He doesn't wear rubber, leather. He doesn't wear, like, stretchy stuff. He wears, like, tense, gritty, rough fabric. They, like, the Justice League in various comics and cartoons and such describe how his suit looks and feels different than theirs because of the material required for his powers. Something like this, putting aside the fact that it wouldn't work, it just looks ugly. Like, he looks like he doesn't even look like a Power Ranger or a Power Rangers villain. He looks like a Power Rangers, like, grunt. Like, it looks like there'd be, like, 500 of them for Johnny Young Bosch to power up, go into the black suit, and punch them all to death. Like, that's what it looks like I'm looking at. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to make this work, because they had him cross over with the CW show, but when he was crossing over in the CW show, he very, very vividly referred back to a certain character who is now booted out of the DCEU because he called out Joss Whedon's trash. I'm not going to go into detail on that. If you want to know what it is, look up Joss Whedon scandal and search for the most recent one, because it's not the first. Yeah, he's going to meet Michael Keaton's Batman, which the sad part is I had hope. I saw this concept art and I said, okay, great, this is going to be a cool movie. But after reading the story plots, no. He meets an alternate Flash and Supergirl. Yeah, I'm all for Supergirl, but she has to be pre-established. I think the only time that I've seen a superhero integrated into a story and have it work before they got, like, their own solo movie, the only time I ever saw that was in the MCU, ironically, because I hate the MCU so much. The only time I've ever seen it seamlessly done well, is with Winter Soldier and Black Panther. Winter Soldier in the titular movie, where he was started as the villain, and then Black Panther in the movie Civil War, where he was like a deuteragonist / minor antagonist, depending on how you look at it. Meanwhile, we don't know who this is, and we're not sure why we should care. And I've seen leaked commentary footage where one of the producers or writers, someone in the creative team, refers to this movie as Supergirl running around with two idiots. And in a movie that I'm supposed to interpret as the Flash solo film, that is a red flag to say the least. It just I'm baffled by how creatively bankrupt Hollywood is nowadays, that they can't think of ways to write compelling female characters without having them constantly put down men. I'm not offended by it. I'm just baffled that they're so like devoid of imagination that they can't do anything. Like, if she doesn't stomp me with a stiletto, then she's not worth anything. That's the message that conveys to me, and that's concerning, to say the least. I'm trying to find where it says what happens. There's literally going to be a scene. Okay, you know what? Forget this. I will simply discuss it right here, right now. It basically said in the synopsis that I read, which I would normally take it as hearsay, because I've lost count of how many, like, leaked plot stories I've seen that turned out to be completely BS. Like, 99% of the ones that I read regarding No Way Home, Spider-Man, turned out to be completely false. But literally every leak related to the Flash story is all the same. They are all the same. They all line up. They get, like, minor details wrong, and it's only about, like, how stuff looks. It's not about how the story takes place. So basically what DC is planning to do is they're planning to wipe Snyder from the map, which is both a blessing and a curse, because what we're staring down the barrel of is the bastardization of DC being switched out for a different bastardization of DC, which stinks, because as much as I like it, like I didn't. Okay, so full disclosure, I didn't like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I didn't. I only supported it on principle. I think it's still a very bad movie with very poorly written characters with a very ill-told story. And I think most of his movies are like that when he writes them. His movies are only good when he's the director and nothing else. Zack Snyder, Patty Jenkins, and a plethora of other directors in Hollywood right now are the kind of people who need to keep their asses out of the writer's room. Give them these properties. I don't care. A Superman movie directed by J.J. Abrams sounds immaculate, but only if he doesn't write it. He cannot write it. Do not let J.J. Abrams, Patty Jenkins, Zack Snyder, Rian Johnson, don't let these pretentious hacks anywhere near the writer's room. That is what ruins these movies. Patty Jenkins's direction did not ruin Wonder Woman 1984. Her writing did. Zack Snyder's direction did not ruin his DC universe. His writing did. And the sad part is, if anyone who disagrees with that sentiment sees this, they're going to clip it, post it on Twitter, and I'm going to get tarred and feathered as, like, a madman. A crazy dude. Even though what I said is, like, 1,000% true. And undeniable to anyone who's not looking through the lens of nostalgia. And that's coming from someone who also, mind you, is heavily critical of the Donner Superman film era. Of the Val Kilmer, George Clooney, even Christopher Nolan Batman era. Like, there's no perfect comic book movies, because comic books are like video games in that you can experience them, and then when you see, like, an adaptation in progress, you can only get something that hopes to be so close. And it's the same thing for everything regarding... anything regarding adaptation. Like, I want to be a writer. I have a couple books in progress that I plan to be done with by the end of the year. That was my New Year's resolution, to finish 2 books. And, yeah. The Flash movie is apparently going to messily retcon everything that Snyder did, and, like, ham-fistedly shove in stuff, like, according to the leaks from multiple, I'm not going to call them sources, I'm going to call them just people, but multiple people who allegedly have alleged connections are saying that when Barry Allen runs back, because the way Flashpoint works, for those of you who haven't read the comic, that's another comic I have. I'm just going to grab it and hold it for a sec. Flashpoint, for those of you who haven't seen it or read it, is what happens is, and here's the thing, another side note. I know I keep going on tangents because I'm like a schizophrenic psychopath when I get gassed up and starting talking about things I like. But side note, this isn't even the best Flash story. So like, that was, as much as I love this story, it's not the best. But as much as I love it, it was still a huge red flag for me when I heard Ezra Miller's Flash movie, his first solo movie, is going to be this. Because they call it Flashpoint only because the actions of the Flash cause the events within the book, not because it's a Flash-centric story. So they shouldn't call it the Flash, they should call it Flashpoint. But yeah, anyways, so the way the mechanics work in this story is, because the biggest tragedy that causes Flash to be the Flash is his mother's murder. And apparently he has like a really, really dark, depressive night, like a lonely, dark, depressive night that he can't quite get through. And what happens is he goes back in time on a whim and saves his mom. He saves his mom, which is, it's something I relate to, not like relate to, but could relate to, can empathize with. My mother's my best friend, she always has been. So when I saw that in that story, I didn't care that it was out of character for Barry Allen, that it was it was out of character, it was out of nowhere, and it was really just DC's excuse to reboot their universe, and they needed like an in-universe mechanic to do it. And so they took the only character that could do it and made it happen. Now, what happens is he leaves behind, when he takes off, right? And he fixes his little past, and he comes back. However, when he comes back, he, like, locks in his choice, and it changes everything. So he comes back to, like, a broken mirror, to, like, a cracked mirror, bizarro world, where Wonder Woman and Aquaman are, like, still isolated from, like, mankind. They're not with history anymore. They're not, like, with the Justice League. The Justice League doesn't exist. Superman didn't crash in Smallville. He crashed in Metropolis and killed millions of people. Bruce Wayne didn't watch his parents get murdered. His parents watched him get murdered, and by cause and effect, his dad grew cold and hardened and became a pretty badass alternate Batman. But his wife, Martha Wayne, turned insane and turned into the Joker. So that, like, there's concepts of it that are cool, but overall it's not the strongest story, it's not the best written story, it's not the best choice of story. But what happens is, when Barry Allen gets to the end and he's like, dang, I screwed up, I have to fix all of this, I have to go back and fix it, he succeeds in preventing what he did. However, what he did is now in the past. Ergo, he can't, like, Control-Alt-Delete it. He can't erase it. He can't scrub the board clean. So what he needs to do is go and change his past to prevent this nightmare future from being created. And so what happens in the comics is he does that, and in doing so, he he creates the so-so, hit-or-miss era of comics in DC that is referred to as the New 52. Which, if further leaks related to DC are to be believed, they are skipping that and going straight into Rebirth, which is a godsend, because New 52 is very hit or miss with its storytelling. Like, New 52 has the quality of writing and quality of comics that, like, Sony has with their Marvel movies. It's, like, very hit or miss. You either find, like, a story you really like, or you're, like, passive and you don't care and you don't want to read it. Basically, the leak of the script is that they're going to pull the actual Flashpoint thing where he runs back and, like, the timeline is fixed, but it's going to be, like, different. And apparently they're going to switch Henry Cavill out with Supergirl, and they're going to switch Ben Affleck out with Michael Keaton, who is going to be too old to do his thing, so he's going to give the role to Batgirl. So yeah, the worst part of all of this is that Warner Brothers is very obviously flying by the seat of their pants. The worst part of all of this is the fact that they are very clearly flying by the seat of their pants. It's very shocking that they have this approach, but they're over here, like, expecting themselves to make as much as, like, the MCU. It's shocking to me. They're like, oh, we have the interconnected universe, so everyone should care and we should be rolling in money, right? Haha, wrong. Ugh. It's shocking. And, back in the day, I used to say DC had better stories, only concerning the comics, but, yeah, that doesn't fly anymore. That reasoning doesn't track, which sucks, because I know I said before this isn't the strongest DC story, but the reason I'm able to, like, look past it in an objective sense and, like, sort of, like, let my feelings take over, like, my feelings definitely carry, it's complicated. My emotional reaction dictates my feelings toward this story. I sort of, like, set aside my writing criticisms for it in the name of my feelings, because the whole thing centers around Barry's relationship with his mom, and, like, from a generic, simplistic viewer's viewpoint, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna think twice about Barry Allen saving his mom, because that's what I'd do. I'm not analyzing it from the perspective of, oh, this goes against Barry Allen's whole growth as a character in the past decades and decades of DC Comics. I'm agreeing because that's what I'd do. So, and then at the end when there's a couple of really good scenes with his mom when she's brought back, so, like, that again endears it further to me, because, like him, my mom's my best friend. So, yeah. Either way, DCEU sucks and is going to continue to suck, because the boomers at Warner Brothers don't know how to do anything. We pay them money to see their movies, and they give us nothing but crap in return.
I have no idea who this is.